KBLA.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580 and the Black Freedom Fund.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA, Talk 1580, download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. There is a lot going on in the news today. Today, the President of the United States is hosting a summit at the new Donald John Trump Institute for Peace, formerly just known as the Institute of Peace, a relatively new agency in Washington, D.C., and he's hosting the leadership of the country of Rwanda and the leadership of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And, you know, I find it kind of fascinating that for the first 4 years of his administration, he referred to African countries and African immigrants as having come from shithole countries. And yet now he's taking a particular and keen interest in Africa. He really wants a Nobel Peace Prize kind of bad, but behind the ceremonial perception of press, Donald Trump, we already knows what he feels about people of color, particularly African Americans, South Americans, immigrants, and others. I listened very carefully to the press conference today, and often not highlighted when there is still a war taking place between the DRC and the Rwandans in various factions on the eastern part of the DRC, that there is no agreement on stopping the war. The agreement that Donald Trump is after is a critical minerals deal between the two countries. And he spoke, and the press release, and the press has reported, about American businesses that will be going to the Congo because there are critical minerals that they need to drive the American and the global economy, including cobalt and lithium and other things that make our cell phones and our computers work. He doesn't care 1 ounce about the people of the Congo or the Rwandans. And I remember very well when I was in Congress, that normally when these peace deals came about, or trade deals, particularly with Africa or with South Americans, you engaged the Congressional Black Caucus that has relationships with these leaders in these countries that presidents normally don't have. And with those relationships, we always advance and advocate for human rights. That was our struggle over the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act, or NAFTA for Africa. I offered the Human Rights Opportunity Partnership and Empowerment Act as an alternative piece of legislation, given the history of colonialism and colonization, neocolonialism within the continent and on the continent from the more developed nations. I remember a book that I read by Susan Totten when I was in the seminary that talked about world hunger and how the first world nations, the developed nations, extract raw materials from the poor. In Venezuela, oil, they extract and lithium from countries around the world, and then they return to Africa, sometimes, finished products produced in other parts of the world that the people in those countries simply cannot afford. And so the bargain is very, very important to the deals that Donald Trump is talking about. Our very special guest on this edition of the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show is Dr. P.L. De Silva, our regular contributor, who has over 20 years of experience in backroom diplomacy, mediation, negotiation. He's taught politics, international relations, and several graduate and undergraduate programs at universities in New York, New Jersey, Long Island, Queen's University of Belfast in Northern Ireland. Dr. De Silva is experienced director with a demonstrated history of working in think tanks, industry, academia, at the United Nations, political and military affairs. Dr. De Silva, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you, Jesse. Wonderful to be on the show.
Dr. De Silva, you'll have to forgive me if I approach these deals with skepticism. We have a very special guest also that Dr. De Silva has brought on to our program this afternoon. Dr. De Silva, would you be kind enough to introduce our guest?
Yes, I am introducing to you Professor of Practice Pamela DeLargy from the Arizona State University. I've known Pam for decades. She is a consummate UN insider. And after she retired from the UNFPA, the Population Fund, she took up this executive position at ASU. But before that, I'll give you a quick rundown of her bio. She's a specialist on global health. She's a professor of practice in global studies and senior advisor to the president and executive director of education for humanity at Arizona State University. It's an initiative to improve access to higher education for refugees, and that's what we'd like to talk about today, and displaced people globally and in the US. Previously, she worked with the UN Secretary General's special representative for migration, Sir Peter Sutherland. And before that, she headed UNFPA's humanitarian work for a decade and worked with global partners on women's health, HIV, adolescent health, and GBV, gender-based violence, in crisis situations, including in peacekeeping settings. And she was in the Sudan. She's a Horn of Africa expert. I need not say more. We have Pam DeLargy on our show, and it's wonderful.
DeLargy, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me today.
When we come forward, I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We're going to have a very interesting conversation today about development in the third world. We have a wonderful guest with Professor DeLargy and PL De Silva. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 remembers Robin Ayers. KBLA Talk 1580 remembers Robin Ayers on the 1-year anniversary of her passing. 1 year ago this week, we lost a remarkable and vibrant voice. Robin Ayers touched countless lives through her passion, her love, her service, and her smile, which you could see through the radio. KBLA Talk 1580 honors her memory and celebrates the legacy she left behind. Robin, your spirit lives on in every conversation, in every connection, and in every one of us, inspired by your voice. Gone, but never forgotten. KBLA Talk 1580, where voices matter.
I'm missing you. Tell me why the road turns. I'm missing you. Tell me why the road turns.
If you've been diagnosed with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis, this is what it sounds like to be 1,000,000 miles away. Imagine being 1,000,000 miles away. Tremfya Guselkumab, taken by injection, is a prescription medicine for adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis who may benefit from taking injections or pills or phototherapy. With Tremfya, clearer skin is possible. In clinical trials, at least 70% of patients saw at least 90% clearer skin at 16 weeks. Results may vary. Tremfya is also indicated for adults with active psoriatic arthritis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Ask your doctor about Tremfya. Call 1-800-526-7736 or visit tremfya.com.
With the new IHOP value menu, $6 is all it takes to go to your happy place, where stacks of pancakes with bacon and eggs are just $6 every day. French toast, sausage, and eggs are, you guessed it, $6. And fluffy omelets come with a side of pancakes and only cost $6. Go to your happy plates every day at IHOP. $7 in some locations. Available every day for a limited time at participating restaurants in the U.S. Hours may vary. No substitutions. Not valid with other discounts or promotions. Prices may vary.
Oh, how's that flu, babe? Did you take Dayquil Intense Flu yet?
Nah, I got this. Ugh, okay, I don't got this.
You stay on the couch, and I'll grab the Dayquil.
Undo your flu symptoms with Dayquil Intense Flu. Dayquil Intense Flu provides powerful relief of your flu symptoms. I'm ready for that to-do list.
Wow, you do got this.
Dayquil Intense Flu. The daytime coughing, aching, fever, under your flu, medicine. Use as directed, keep out of reach of children.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Quality drops the beat.
Jesse Jackson Jr., welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Our very special guests include our regular contributor, Dr. Phil De Silva, and a very special guest, Professor Pamela DeLargy. I think I'm going to direct the first question, if you don't mind, to Professor DeLargy, who I'm particularly impressed with her resume on, I believe, the subject matter. The United States has historically used its massive leverage in peace deals, in trade deals, with the participation of the Congressional Black Caucus, the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, the Congressional Women's Caucus. I know this was a priority of Speaker Nancy Pelosi when she ran the Congress of the United States, to advocate for the education of women, to advocate for maternal birth rates, not only in the United States, but obviously around the world. And these deals, this kind of Monty Hall economic policy of relating to the world, let's make a deal, isn't coming, at least from my perspective, with just 10 months into the Trump administration, with the kind of standards that the United States has historically used in these kinds of negotiations. Very interested, Professor DeLargy, in your insights on the consequences of the present form of diplomacy that I think is undermining participation and in the idea of creating a global citizenry.
First of all, Jesse, I'm not even sure we can call this diplomacy. This is some kind of business deal making going on, because it's not following the tradition of U.S. diplomacy. It's not following any of the goals that the international community has set for peacekeeping or peace building. And it's not following the long-held values of the U.S. in intervening in this kind of peace mediation. It's quite odd. You know, I was thinking this morning, as three presidents will be sitting there signing an agreement today, but the fighting is still going on in Eastern Congo. Women are still being raped. People are still being killed. Hospitals are still being attacked. It's a disastrous situation. I guess we can only pray that somehow the signing of this will improve things a little bit. But it doesn't. Let's see. The proof is in the pudding, as they say.
Professor DeLargy, I couldn't agree with you more. PL, that's exactly what these Monty Hall, let's make a deal. And I grew up in an era when Monty Hall had a famous television show in Chicago called Let's Make a Deal. That's exactly what this is. These deals, if you will, when they were referred to as diplomacy, were carefully thought out measures that indeed took many months, in some cases, many years, in order to carefully craft between warring parties in these parts of the world that Donald Trump is trying to take credit for in an overnight grift. Dr. De Silva?
Yes, I mean, we are truly living in strange times. I just finished my fall semester on international global governance. And, what do you tell your students? You're trying to train them to go to the State Department. We used to have students go and join USAID. None of that exists anymore. And I do agree with Pam that this is not diplomacy. It's like we have the robber barons running the government and sitting in the White House, and war onto us poor citizens who work. We pay our taxes, and criminals who are being put away are being let out, en masse by Trump. Look at this whole business in Venezuela. He's attacking, fishermen and so-called drug boats, which are minuscule compared to the 400 tons of cocaine that was smuggled into the U.S. Through the Mexican border by the former president of Honduras, who's now been given a pardon by President Trump. So if he was really after, drug smugglers and, cracking down on drugs, this man should be in jail, not being released. So it's like Al Capone and his gang sitting in the White House.
I've never seen anything like it. Professor DeLargy, what we know about the global economy is that women and children and the poor always end up at the bottom, even the bottom of our very best intentions. We saw that with the North American Free Trade Agreement. I think we're seeing that with the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act. I can only imagine that what is really behind what's going on in Venezuela is access to their enormous oil deposits. How do women fare in this current climate around the world, given the absence of the United States, its moral leadership and moral authority?
Despite a long history of U.S. self-interest in international diplomacy, in fact, our country did a lot to try to set the tone about women's rights and about equality and about women's health, about adolescence, about youth, about attention to support for people with disabilities. We really were among the countries leading these efforts within the UN system, within the international community, and within humanitarian response. We led on issues of trying to establish HIV treatment. You think about, and this goes back to the Bush administration for PEPFAR, really thinking about the importance of providing prevention and care for people who were infected with HIV. And it's been quite astonishing to see that within a period of a year, all of this has collapsed with the collapse of USAID, of course, with the withdrawal of assistance to all kinds of support. And even though there was lip service paid early on as they were dismantling USAID, oh no, we're going to keep the valuable programs, we're going to keep the proven programs. It's been a disaster for women's health, for HIV, for reproductive health, for treatment of tuberculosis, or other diseases which are global diseases. So this is not only, pulling the plug on programs that help women and lots of people all around the world, poor people all around the world. It's also pulling the plug on protection from infectious diseases for our own citizens. Because these germs don't stop at borders. Viruses and bacteria don't stop at borders. So it's a very, to me, it's a kind of performative thing. We're going to show the world that it's not our responsibility to help anybody. We're going to show, but we're cutting off our noses to spite our face in this regard too.
Professor Delargy, these programs have also gone a long way towards sustaining democratic governments around the world. And in the absence of these programs, the stability of these countries, given that there will be increases in hunger, increases in the spread of disease, increases with wealth being concentrated in a more upward direction within some of these third world, if you will, or developing countries. It doesn't bode well for democracy in these contexts either.
Certainly not, because it also doesn't bode well for education for people. And for democracies to function, there has to be decent education, and there has to be decent media, and there has to be honest journalism, and there has to be an openness in a society to discuss and debate different kinds of policies, right? But if we are saying, no, we're not going to support education, we're not going to support open media, we're no longer going to support training of journalists, we're no longer going to support training of people in judiciary or people running, political parties or all of that, it's not surprising. And it's not surprising when you see our president who he likes to deal with. He is much more comfortable in a room discussing governance with some autocrats than he is discussing with people who are actually in a thriving but maybe chaotic democracy.
I find it interesting that in light of undermining economically, Dr. De Silva and Professor Delargy, the quality of life for the average citizen in these countries, that it can only lead, and I know that Professor Delargy is probably more versed in this than I am, it can only expand the refugee crisis around the world at the same time that there's a resistance increasingly in the first world to even welcome immigrants who might find themselves in refugee status as a result of the undermining of their qualities of lives in their own home countries.
Yes, so that's the thing. This whole thing about Afghan refugees, about Somali refugees, and the appalling things that President Trump is saying, taking matters out of context. And this was why I was very keen on wanting to hear from Professor Delargy, because she has been running a program for Afghan women refugees in the last pullout when the US troops pulled out. And she was the custodian of a group of them. And I want for our audience to hear about the positive aspects of programs for Afghan women, refugees, and others that Professor Delargy has been involved in. She was also, linked to the pilots who were repatriated from Afghanistan. So, Pam, I'd love to hear from you on that.
Yeah, I think more broadly, what Jesse said is right too. What we are doing is actually only going to increase the number of refugees in the world. But the narrative, being developed by our own administration right now is that all countries should not admit refugees, not only us. He is instructing the European countries that they should stop accepting refugees. He's instructing even Asian countries, no, you should not be accepting refugees. It's quite remarkable as we are increasing the number of refugees. Thank you, PL. I would love to talk about the program that we had at ASU. We had a particular program for Afghan refugees when the Taliban took over and many Afghans had to leave. And I'm finding it interesting in the discussions these days after the shooting of the National Guard last week, which was such a terrible thing, that the whole of Afghan community is being blamed for the actions of one severely mentally ill person, evidently. And we're seeing on a day-to-day basis now practical implications of the blaming and demonizing of this community. The same with the Somali community right now. But it's not only those two communities. This week he's come out with to add to the travel ban now that nobody will be able to come here. And nobody who's here from 19 different countries who are applying for asylum or who have applied for green cards, suspending all of that. 19 different countries, most of whom have nothing to do with Afghanistan or Somalia, and certainly nothing to do with the terrible tragedy that happened in Washington last week.
When we come forward, and that will be at the hard stop at the bottom of the hour, I'd like to hear about your successes, Professor Delargy, on how these programs should be working in the context of give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses who yearn to breathe free. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Our very special contributor, Dr. P.L. Da Silva, and Professor Delargy are our very special guests in this hour.
Thank you.
The biggest names, the best conversations. You're riding with Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
Amber Payton with BIN News Now. With just weeks left in office, Black New York City Mayor Eric Adams signed an executive order banning city leaders from boycotting or divesting from Israel.
You take investment out of Israel, you don't have the technologies that are going to help our grandmothers, our grandfathers, our children.
Adams also ordered the New York Police Department to review protest rules near houses of worship after recent anti-Semitic chants outside a synagogue. The Justice Department is pursuing a second attempt to charge Black New York Attorney General Letitia James. James, a Trump critic, previously pleaded not guilty to bank fraud and lying on mortgage documents. And 32-year-old Black rapper and influencer Clinton Adams was arrested in Los Angeles for allegedly sexually assaulting two women at a vacant Pacific Palisades home he claimed was his. He remains jailed on $1.4 million bail. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Compassion sponsorship means food, healthcare, education, and most of all, being known, loved, and protected. There are thousands of kids waiting over a year. End their wait. Sponsor a child with compassion today. Text the word radio to 83393.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert told reporters today he's planning to play in Monday night's home game against Philadelphia. Herbert has surgery Monday to repair a fractured bone in his left hand. The decision on playing Monday night might not be up to Herbert. Chargers coach Jim Harbaugh and the team's medical staff need to see if Herbert can handle snaps and if he's having any pain on Monday. This week's top four seeds in the college football playoffs: Ohio State, Tavis Smiley's Indiana Hoosiers, Georgia, and Texas Tech. Indiana and Ohio State meet up Saturday in Indianapolis for the Big Ten Conference Championship. The top four seeds will get a bye in the first round of the playoffs. The final 12-team bracket will be announced on Sunday. Lakers star Luka Doncic continues to lead the NBA in scoring. Luka is averaging 35.3 points per game. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Break out the champagne. Everybody get a glass.
Tavis Smiley is now ranked number 16 nationally and the highest rated talk show hosted by an African American on the 2025 Talkers Heavy 100 list of the most important talk radio hosts in the nation. Last year, Tavis ranked number 33 and the year before, number 45. The Tavis Smiley Show has rapidly expanded its national syndication to now include nearly 50 radio stations across the country and counting. Congratulations, Tavis.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio that's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Established in 2020 during a time of deep racial unrest across our state and country, the Black Freedom Fund was created to make sure that leaders and organizations working to support Black communities and build power have the resources they need to stay in the fight for the long haul. We believe that those closest to the issues impacting our communities know best how to solve them. That's why in just the last 5 years, we've granted more than $45 million to over 200 grassroots organizations across California. That is the largest collective investment in Black organizing in history, and we're just getting started. We are clear-eyed and committed, more now than ever, to our people, our power, and our possibility. Join us in creating a future where Black people harness their full power to shape their lives and realize a just world for all. Learn more at fundblackfreedom.org. That's fundblackfreedom.org. The Black Freedom Fund is proud to sponsor Conversation Live Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, y'all, come on. Here come the drums.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we fight the power every day.
Yeah, gotta give us what we want. Gotta give us what we need.
I listen to KBLA and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, you know, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chucky. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it! Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power! Fight the power! Fight the power!
This holiday season, KBLA Talk 1580 wishes you and yours joy, peace, and prosperity. As we celebrate with family and friends, we're already looking forward to an exciting first quarter, packed with must-attend events to kick off the new year just right. In January, join us for our inaugural Brotherhood Brunch, bringing together community leaders, change makers, and everyday people for inspiration and connection. February means it's time for our signature Black History Month luncheon, a powerful celebration you won't want to miss. And in March, Women's History Month, we're once again hosting our State of Black Women in Los Angeles Symposium and Luncheon, addressing the issues that matter most inside our community. From all of us at KBLA Talk 1580, happy holidays. Stay tuned for more details on these incredible upcoming events. KBLA Talk 1580, your voice, your community, your power.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Folly drops the beat. Come on and talk with
I'm
me.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. It's Talk for Voting Thursdays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show and worldwide with Dr. P.L. De Silva and our very special guest, Professor Pamela DeLarchi. P.L. De Silva is experienced with a demonstrated history of working in think tanks, industry, and academia, the United Nations, political and military affairs. He has also done some extraordinary research, political risk analysis, geostrategy, cultural diplomacy, humanitarian action, and global affairs involving war-affected, deeply divided societies, along with our very special guest, Professor, if you will, Professor Pamela DeLarchi, Professor of Practice and Global Studies, a Senior Advisor to the President and Executive Director of Education for Humanity at Arizona State University, the initiative to improve access to higher education for refugees, displaced people globally and in the United States. Professor DeLargy, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, and PL, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Professor DeLargy, how should the United States and the developed world approach refugee crises under normal circumstances? And by normal, I mean without the leadership that we are presently experiencing here in the United States.
You know, it would be a great world if we didn't have any refugees anywhere.
Amen.
If there were no natural disasters, if there were no armed conflicts that are displacing people right and left. So the first thing to do is try to prevent those displacements. And that is to solve these long-running battles and conflicts throughout the world, Africa, Asia, Latin America, all over the place, that are causing these displacements. It seems like we're not doing a very good job at that, though. So, you know, the international community developed a program over the past, 80 years or so to try to provide protection for people who are displaced. And say, maybe I'm in Congo and I'm affected by the fighting there right now, and I cross the border and I go to Tanzania. Traditionally, government of Tanzania maybe has set up a camp there, takes care of people. The international humanitarian community provides the support for food, for shelter, for schools, etc., for Congolese refugees in Tanzania. The U.S. used to be the largest donor to the UN High Commission for Refugees. That's not happening anymore, and lots of other countries are cutting back their funding too. So UNHCR doesn't have the funds to support people all over the world in camps or in urban areas. The U.S. also traditionally, well, at least over the past 40 years, has had its own refugee resettlement program where they work with UNHCR. UNHCR identifies people for whom it's very difficult to stay in that camp in Tanzania, say, for some reason. Maybe a family, maybe a mother and a young child, maybe somebody with a disability. And the U.S. has offered places in the U.S. refugee resettlement program, which has always been funded and supported on a very bipartisan basis. Every single administration until this one for 40 years has supported U.S. refugee resettlement. And these refugees are vetted, they're interviewed, they come to the U.S., they're helped by a number of what they called resettlement agencies. Sometimes these can be faith-based, Catholic Charities, Lutheran Social Services, Hebrew Immigrant Aid. Sometimes there are others like International Rescue Committee or others. And they were basically hired by the U.S. government to help people settle in. If that person that Congolese refugee who was in Tanzania, for instance, comes to Arizona, then they get helped by an organization here. And traditionally, they've been eligible for certain kinds of benefits, for SNAP, for Medicaid or medical assistance, and for other benefits, but very briefly, sometimes only for 1 or 2 or 3 months, and provided housing until they can get a job and start supporting themselves. So it's been, there's been traditional social support, economic support for early arrivals until they could get employed. Right now, our administration is saying we are going to suspend all of this support, even for people who very recently arrived. So this is a practical implication of these decisions made this week. Oh, we're not going to provide medical assistance anymore. We're not going to let them be eligible for SNAP. We're not going to let people be eligible for schools. So basically, it's taking people who are already here and saying, no, we're going to cut you off. And my guess is that's, it's I don't know what they think might happen to people. this Congolese I'm talking about, this hypothetical refugee, can't go back to Congo right now. And strangely enough, this administration is sending people to completely different places. You know, we're sending people from Venezuela. Now they're discussing with Liberia to send them there. We're sending people to, I don't know, now there's discussion, I think, with Eswatini and other places as well. So there's a collapse both globally for support and protection of people who are displaced, and a collapse in our own country of support and protection for those that we had already agreed to take here.
You know, PL, what Professor DeLargy is saying is too much like right. I mean, it's just part of every faith system on how we treat our neighbors that I'm aware of. We're obviously, PL, going in the opposite direction.
Yes. So all these people, you know, we have to beware of people who say, "Oh, we are good Christians. We support the right to life." You know, all these people who are saying all of these things, but actually, when you analyze their actions, it's actually been extremely cruel. Cruelty is the key to poor, vulnerable people, women, children, the elderly, men. And there's no rhyme or reason. There's no logic. They can't put their hand on the good book and say, we are doing this because we are good Christians. You know, they can't sell that to us. So this is really, we are living in the times, you know, dystopian times, where so-called paragons of virtue are actually, you know, doing harm and actually being extremely evil.
Yeah, there's actually no doubt in my mind about that. We'll be coming up on our break in just a moment. In the next and final segment of the show, I'm going to come back with a question for Dr. De Silva and one for Professor DeLargy. But Professor DeLargy, I should prepare you. The final 3 minutes, we always ask our very special guest to leave us with a word of hope. So I'm going to, when we come forward, not only ask you a question along with Dr. De Silva, but I want to leave that last 3 minutes for you with a word of hope. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the J Lunch Club on KBLA Talk 1580. Our very special guest, Professor Pamela DeLargy and PL De Silva. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Cedars-Sinai is helping shape the future of Los Angeles, working alongside local communities and showing up with resources and healthcare programs that open doors for people across the city. Through career development programs like Next Gen Healthcare Pathways and partnerships with over 200 organizations like Black Men in White Coats, Cedars-Sinai is educating and empowering future healthcare leaders right here in LA. With access to education, mentorships, and hands-on experiences, we can build a healthier Los Angeles together. Cedars-Sinai, here for LA. Unwrap LA this winter with Metro. Whether you're heading to a family gathering or last-minute shopping, Metro's got you. Enjoy free rides across Metro on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. Move with joy. Move with community this holiday season. Go Metro.
The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in more places that could expose you more to identity theft. But LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, our US-based restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Don't face drained accounts, fraudulent loans, or financial losses alone. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS. Visit lifelock.com. Terms apply.
If a Lenovo computer for your business is on your holiday list, don't shop around. Just go directly to the source, Lenovo.com. It's your last chance to get exclusive deals on the PCs you want for your business, like the ThinkPad X9 14 Aura Edition and Yoga 7i 2-in-1. So avoid all that shopping chaos and price comparing, and just go directly to the source, Lenovo.com, where PCs are up to 35% off. That's Lenovo.com.
Lenovo. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., the Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Lena Bloom for the Bail Project. Imagine you're stuck in a jail cell and you can't afford bail and someone offers you a way out. Just plead guilty and you can go home and kiss your kids goodnight. What do you do? What thousands have. You plead guilty whether you are or not. Cash bail makes poverty a crime. That's why the Bail Project helps those who can't afford it while fighting to end cash bail, because freedom should be free.
Brought to you by the Ad Council.
It's never too early to start talking about money in realistic ways with your kids. JP Morgan Chase navigates how to educate your kids now about creating long-lasting, healthy money habits. Whether your kids are in elementary school, high school, or college, now is a great time to start a conversation about ways to create healthy money habits as they grow, ultimately benefiting their financial future. Talking about money in a realistic way to support your kids' lifestyle and dreams, your first banking account geared towards high school or college. It's never too early. Explaining the basics, what you earn and what you spend, building financial confidence starts with getting organized. Learning and practicing vital money skills now will stay with them for life. Tools they will have to stay on top of their finances and achieve their goals. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA is a Black and Brown-led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org. Or find them on Instagram at walkgoodla. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 remembers Robin Ayers on the 1-year anniversary of her passing. 1 year ago this week, we lost a remarkable and vibrant voice. Robin Ayers touched countless lives through her passion, her love, her service, and her smile, which you could see through the radio. KBLA Talk 1580 honors her memory and celebrates the legacy she left behind. Robin, your spirit lives on in every conversation, in every connection, and in every one of us, inspired by your voice. Gone but never forgotten. KBLA Talk 1580, where voices matter.
I'm missing you. Tell me why the road turns.
as we go a little something like this.
Hey, it is me, D.L. Hughley, and I am thrilled to be heard weekdays in my hometown on KBLA Talk 1580. So check out the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show weekdays from 2 to 4 p.m. exclusively on KBLA Talk 1580. We got a whole lot to talk about, let me tell you. That's for the real.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley drops the beat. Come on and talk with me.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. In what has been a rich first hour with Worldwide with PL De Silva on Thoughtful Thursdays. Our very special guest has been Professor Pamela DeLargy. I do have a question that I'd like to ask of both Professor De Silva and Dr. De Silva. Both are Professors De Silva and DeLargy. I wonder, what does the future of the world's displaced and refugees actually holds? I in this moment during the break, I thought that the future holds, by definition, more war, more rape of women, more genocide, more disease, more destabilization, and that's just a short list of what will take place as these industrialized nations begin to close their borders, and we begin in the industrialized world to strip them of their critical minerals. The only thing we want from them is what is under their feet, the bargaining chip that makes their society sustainable. Let me start with Professor De Silva, because I do want our word of hope and the answer to the question from Professor DeLargy. PL?
Right. So the thing is this. I think it behooves all of us to listen to the executive director of the World Trade Organization, Dr. Ngozi. She gave an interview recently and has explained that even though the White House would like to, extract resources and things like that, what has happened on the trade front is that the tariffs have pushed away many countries that used to do business with the United States. And these countries are now coalescing and working more with China, India, and other countries that want to do global trade without having these crazy ad hoc tariffs. So the larger propensity of countries are now trading not with the US, but with other countries like China, India, Europe, etc. And that is a sea change. And though you if they think that that these critical minerals are going to save the US auto industry, they're wrong. The people who are making these decisions in DC are wrong, because it takes years for you to get the supply chain and to get it up to speed. And in the meantime, China has 70-80% of all critical minerals are controlled by China. So that's where they have a hold on the US, and they're not going to give that up without concessions, significant concessions from President Trump. So whatever he may say with regard to Africa, with regard to Venezuela, with regard to Afghans, Somalis, etc., the world is moving away from the US.
Professor DeLargy, your word of hope.
I think that I still have faith that most people in this world are good people. And, we saw this when the population of Sudan rose up and overthrew, an old despotic regime, only to have a war start later that could only keep going with support and big money and arms from the Emiratis, who are playing a terrible role. And so it seems like things are are so biased. The people in power, the people with money, are not thinking well right now. But Voice of Hope, I would say, we've been hosting. We took in about 80 young Afghan women who were evacuated from Afghanistan when the Taliban took over. And I have to tell you, having them on campus has also reaffirmed my belief in human nature too. These young people, they have taught all the other students around our campus about so many things, about resilience, about strength, about how to cope when separated from family, about how to study hard. And I have to close with saying our community was amazing too. When they came and we were in temporary shelters, I have to tell you that the meals were breakfast was being brought by St. Vincent de Paul Society. The lunch was brought by Islamic Circle. The clothes and the shoes and the leggings were brought by a local synagogue. And for 3 years, all the dental care of these young people has been provided by the Latter-day Saints Foundation.
Wow.
So it was an amazing multi-faith, broad community support, and that is the one thing that keeps me hopeful.
I'm so grateful to P.L. De Silva and to Professor DeLargy for your contribution to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. That was a word of hope. Look forward to having you both on our show in the not-too-distant future. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580.
Thank you.
Thank you.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. With just weeks left in office, Black New York City Mayor Eric Adams signed an executive order banning city leaders from boycotting or divesting from Israel.
You take investment out of Israel, you don't have the technologies that are going to help our grandmothers, our grandfathers, our children.
Adams also ordered the New York